Here we go. How is everybody today? All righty. Welcome to the Mighty Companions. We're really glad that you are here and have chosen this time to spend with us and go over a little bit about what A Course in Miracles is. A Course in Miracles is my path and my primary path, because I think it's one of the best ways that we can talk about a non-dual awareness in this world for a Western mind. I'm Rev Glen Morton Ganaway, and I'm an integral mentor. And that means that I try to use as many different kind of ways, and many different forms and modalities in order to teach and learn about myself in the world. And A Course in Miracles fits that really, really, really well. We've chosen as our theme song here, God Is, because it is ever more apparent in a non-dual awareness to realize that we and God are not two separate things. And that's kind of what non-dual means. Me and God are not two. We're one. So I'm really glad that you've chosen to join me here every week on the Tao Fellowship in the live stream room, and it'll be available on YouTube here very, very, very shortly. So thank you, Brother Sean. Here at A Course in Miracles, we know that nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists, and herein lies the peace of God. Every day in A Course in Miracles, we do a lesson. There are 365 lessons. Actually, there are about 250 lessons, but we do them on about 365 days, including the reviews. So what I'd like to begin by saying, first of all, welcome and thank you, and your presence is greatly appreciated to me. Normally, we have are often on and off. I don't know whether it's normal yet. We haven't established a normal yet here on Mighty Companions, but I would say Rev.Yolanda is here very often. I would try to get her to come by, and we're going to play her songs, and we're going to be a part of that. She's here the last Saturday of every month, and I'm here every Saturday to talk about what exactly the Course in Miracles is doing to do reviews, and then on the last Saturday, Rev.Yolanda is featured. But and sometimes she shows up during the week as well. But today she is off gallivanting around Manhattan. She's going to run the band. She's running errands for her show coming up on March 12th. Here at the Duplex in New York City. So we're excited about that, and taking care of business with the band and all those things that come together for putting together a performance here in New York City. We've added a date in April, and I'll have more information for that next week. But I'd like to tell you and talk to you a little bit about where we are in A Course in Miracles right now. Right now, we are on we've just completed the first review. We do 50 days, and I call them the Cornerstone Lessons. We have 50 days there. Then we have 10 days of review, and then we move on to the next big block of 10 lessons. And so I'm really, one of my favorite moments in the course is coming out of that first review. We've been doing reviewing. I am not a. We've been reviewing everything. Nothing I see. I love this. I have given everything I see all the meaning that it has for me. We move from that idea into discovering that who we really are. The first 50 lessons are actually a very short 50 core lessons, foundational lessons, cornerstone lessons of the course. So you can take the course by just doing the 50 lessons over and over and over again. But on that note, one of my favorite moments in the Course in Miracles is when we come out of that first review where we do 5 lessons a day. You know, we do the first 50 lessons, and then we do 5 lessons a day for 10 days, and your head's kind of going, really getting full, and it's, well, for me, we're moving along and putting these lessons together and combining them in sections of 5, and then all of a sudden, on day 61, we get I am the light of the world. So it's like, boom! It just, I think it's just like really quite marvelous. So the lesson, you know, so it goes from lesson 61, I am the light of the world, and then it moves to forgiveness is my function as the light of the world, and we're going to be talking a lot about function, and that's because the course and the text run together. So with the fact that the course and the text run together, as we move through the lessons, we'll move through a corresponding corresponding text in the course that'll support those messages and those ideas, those spiritual ideas, and we'll be able to delve into them maybe a little bit more. So I'm here to offer you some ideas to use, and ideas and spiritual ideas and laws to practically help us experience and create the world that we know is possible. So if you'll so today, this week, we're going to be focusing on lessons 61 through 66, and we're going to be looking at half, I love this, we're going to be looking at half of chapter 7. Chapter 7 is called The Gifts of the Kingdom. You can't wait to find out what that gift is, to show you what the gift of the kingdom is. I love that. So, on lesson 61 says, I am the light of the world. I am the light of the world. 62 says, forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. 63 builds on this idea still further. The light of the world brings peace to every mind through my forgiveness. Kind of pulling that out a little bit more. Do you see the expansive nature there that's happening? I am the light of the world. Forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. And the light of the world brings peace to every mind through my forgiveness. You have the idea, the means, and the result all right there. It's really very, very elegant. I am the light of the world. Forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. The light of the world brings peace through my forgiveness. 64 says, let me not forget my function. So right there we have an underline. Let me not forget my function. What's your function? To be the light of the world that brings forgiveness to every, that brings peace. Your function is to bring peace to the world through forgiveness. My function as the light of the world. And then the light is, your light is how you do it. Only my function, my only function is the one God gave me. We get so confused about what do I want to be when I grow up? Do you remember being asked that as a kid? Oh, well, what are you going to be when you grow up? I don't know about you, but I was told what I was going to be when I grew up. You better believe it. I was told, he goes, you're going to be just like your father. Well, it turns out they were right. But let me not forget my function. My only function is the one God gave me. What's the only function that God gave me? To be myself as the light of the world, to be the light of the world that brings peace. How? Through my forgiveness, with the light of the world. My only function is the one God gave me. And this is what we come up with today. Today's lesson is, bum, 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 we need maybe Muppets to come out or something like. And today's show was brought to you by Lesson 66. Lessons. I'll have to put something together for that. That could be kind of fun to work on, right? Lesson 66. My happiness and my function are one. How powerful is that? How powerful is understanding that there isn't really two things going on here. Real often, we'll come to a place in our life where we're at a crossroads. Maybe we're at a crossroads with our faith. Maybe we're at a crossroads with a job opportunity. And real often, we're at a crossroads in some type of relationship. And that's where these ideas get really, really powerful. Using these ideas in relationship is really their most powerful application, because light that works on light creates more light, and that is us as the children of God, as the sonship, the Course in Miracles calls it. Our functions kind of end up weaving together in these marvelous way. So working with others, being in community, spreading the truth and joy of who we are, tends to be like the whole thing, tends to be where we're doing and what we're doing. So what kind of decisions would you make if you knew that your happiness and your function are the same thing? That kind of knowledge might help you be able to make those decisions that are tough to make in your life. Where is my happiness? Where is my joy? Where is the light of my authenticity leading me to expand my function as the light of the world in this situation? How am I bringing about more peace? How is who I am going to bring more peace to the world? And it's right under it is the knowledge that what you want to do and what makes you happy is yours to do in the world. Isn't it amazing how much energy we have for what we want to do? Now, and I'm not talking about how we want to run away from what hurts us or run towards what gives us physical pleasure. The Buddhists have a really good way of talking about that. They call that the nature of suffering. How we suffer is reaching for pleasure and resisting pain. I'm not talking about like that, what do you want to do? I want to avoid pain. I want to be happy all the time. That's not quite what she's talking about here. My happiness and my function are one. So what it is that you are passionate and want to do in the world, the idea that you see out here that you would like to bring forward, like to bring into fruition, is your happiness. And the way that's going to happen is by being yourself and forgiving what gets in your way. Forgiving it, having to be and locking down and constricting it into a certain way. Now, we're going to do that. The Course in Miracles and every spiritual technology that I know of takes that for granted. We're going to do that Buddhist suffering thing and reach for what we want and resist what we don't want. But the idea here is our happiness and our function are one. You are here as the light of the world to bring peace through your forgiveness. And the forgiveness is to forgive our tendency to reach for what we want and to resist what we do not want as human animals. See, that's not really the problem. The problem is we think we know. So that's where the two kingdoms that we're going to talk about today come into mind. But before we do that, I want to make sure that we have a complete understanding of how the course tells us it is to be read. So I want to read to you the passage from the workbook for students, and it is from the introduction, page 2. It's the last 3 paragraphs of the introduction to Course in Miracles workbook for students, and it reminds us exactly how to read the course and the kind of mind we would need to have. It gives us some permissions as well. Listen to this. The overall aim of the exercises is to increase your ability to extend the ideas you will be practicing to include everything. This will require no effort on your part. The exercises themselves meet the conditions necessary for this kind of transfer. Some of the ideas that the workbook presents you will find hard to believe, and others may seem to be quite startling. This does not matter. You are merely asked to apply the ideas as you are directed to do. You are not asked to judge them at all. You're only asked to use them. It is their use that will give them meaning to you and show you that they are true. Remember only this. And she says that a lot. Remember only this. You need not believe the ideas. You need not accept them. You need not even welcome them. Some of them you may actively resist. None of this will matter or decrease their efficacy, but do not allow yourself to make exceptions in applying the ideas the workbook contains. And whatever your reactions to the ideas may be, use them. Nothing more than that is required. Nothing more than that is required, but that you use the ideas and use your feelings about the ideas when you apply them as part of the whole process, because you, as the light of the world, can surely withstand it. So, as we're going to be looking at chapter 7 today. But what's interesting about chapter 7, there's something interesting about all the chapters and each section as well. But chapter 7 is a pretty long chapter. It's called the Gifts of the Kingdom. So, well, thank God that's a long chapter, right? We want lots of gifts. Yay! Bring on the gifts, right? We've been working through to figure out what our function is, and now we are going to be looking at chapter 11. Because what's going on here is it's really long. We're going to talk about the gifts of the kingdom, but there are 11 sections, and I'll spell them out for you, but we're only going to do the first 6. So next week we're going to be doing sections 7 through 11, but here's a list of what we're going to be looking at for this next 2 weeks. The last step is the section 1, the law of the kingdom. Right here we got the kingdom, right? This idea of a kingdom. We're very, very familiar with the idea of the kingdom. The second section is called the law of the kingdom. The third is the reality of the kingdom. The fourth is healing as a recognition of truth. The 5 is healing and the changeless mind. And 6 is from vigilance to peace. Okay? That's what we're going to be looking at today. Next week we're going to go to the totality of the kingdom, the unbelievable belief. Sounds interesting, right? Sounds like a movie. The unbelievable belief. The unbelievable belief is section 8. Section 9 is the extension of the kingdom. Section 10 is the confusion of pain and joy. It gets an interesting one. And the 11, the state of grace. So you have a kingdom and a state here. I wonder what that is. We're going to look at kingdoms and states. Stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of fun here. Put maybe some new ideas in your head, maybe some new ideas to practice, but most of all, we're here about making sure that to be able to give you tools to practice forgiveness, to bring your light of the world, to bring your light to the world. Very simple, right? Okay, in the last step of chapter 7 of the gifts of the kingdom, it says, Your creations belong to you as you belong to God. You are a creator, right? We established that last time. Your natural state is being a creator. Your creations belong to you as you belong to God. You are part of God as your sons are part of his sons. Okay, do you get where she's going here? To create is to love. To create is to love. And I want to make sure that is really underlined here. This is your first cross-pillow moment. To create is to love. Love is creation. So if God created us, or God is love, and God created us, and how do we create others? Through love. How do we expand what God is? How do we expand reality? By loving. It's also called being the light of the world. Love extends outward simply because it cannot be contained. Being limitless, it does not stop. It creates forever. But here's the cool part, but not in time. Time, like the temporal time. God's creations have always been. And you can create only as God creates. That's the only way to create. So you can create only as God creates, by loving something into existence. Do you know that? Did you know that is how you expand the light of yourself? Is to loving something into existence? Interesting concept. God's creations have always been, and you can create only as God creates. Eternity is yours because he created you eternal. I gave only love to the kingdom, and this is Jesus' voice Helen Schuckman heard in her head. She called it Jesus. I gave only love to the kingdom because I believed that was what I was. I believed I was only love. What you believe you are determines your gifts. What you believe you are determines your gifts. And if God created you by extending himself as you can only extend yourself as he did. Only joy increases forever, since joy and eternity are inseparable. God extends outward beyond limits and beyond time, and you who are co-created with him extend his kingdom forever and beyond limit. Eternity is the indelible stamp of creation. Bunk! The eternal are in peace and joy forever. So there's a part of you that is eternal in peace and joy forever. So the last step is God knowing who we are. The last step is realizing that we are creating as God creates, and that's what enlightenment is like, isn't it? What they call enlightenment, you're able to do marvelous things, have all these cities, S-I-D-H-I, cities, spiritual gifts that you acquire, that for the joy and praise, for the joy of God, the joy of living in love. So that is kind of the way they talk about gifts of this Spirit and such. So know that we do and are, and how we create is by loving something into existence. That's kind of the first idea. The law of the kingdom. There's a second section. Outside of the kingdom, the law that prevails inside is adapted to, quote, what you project, you believe. So we need to understand what projection is. Outside the kingdom, that means like in the past and in the future, in our head, outside the kingdom, outside of reality, outside of love. So no such thing as outside of love, but that's what she's getting at. The idea is what you project, you believe. It's true. This is its teaching form, because outside the kingdom, learning is essential. This form implies that you will learn what you are from what you have projected onto others, and therefore believe you are. In the kingdom, there is no teaching or learning. In the present moment, there is no teaching or learning because there is no belief. There is only certainty. God, in the moment, there's only certainty. God and his sons, in the surety of being, know that what you extend, you are. What you extend, you are. The form of the law is not adapted at all, being the law of creation. God himself created the law by creating by it. and his sons who create like him, like you and me, by loving something into existence, follow it gladly. Following that increase in the kingdom depends on it, just as their own creation did. The Holy Spirit's purpose in translating is exactly the opposite. This translates only to preserve the original meaning in all aspects and in all languages. Therefore, he opposes the idea that differences in any form are meaningful, emphasizing always that these differences do not matter. These levels of experience that we think we have, which is why that of the Buddhist idea of reaching for these things is absolutely, well, she calls it insane, and I'm going to agree with the Course. We got permission not to, right, from the very beginning. But I'm going to apply this idea and say that when I having an emotion or an experience that I prefer, in my little unknowing, ignorant self, something I prefer is no more valuable or doesn't have any greater meaning than a situation or an emotion or something that I do not prefer. There aren't any levels of experience, just like there aren't any levels in miracles. There aren't any levels in God. There is only our ability to be present for their awareness. And that is a human thing. That is not a divine thing. So the truth, if you could remember as a human being to apply, that I guarantee you will get less and less and less upset if you remember that there are no levels in experience, that differences, although they are present and are beautiful, and some are preferable and some are not, do not have a difference in the meaning doesn't differ. The meaning is all value is the same, emphasizing that these differences do not matter. The meaning of this message is always the same, only the meaning matters. Only what we're learning is what needs to happen. God's laws of creation do not involve the use of truth to convince the sons of truth. The extension of truth, which is the law of the kingdom, the extension of truth, the extension of love, the extension of peace, the extension of beauty, is the law of the kingdom, and it rests only on the knowledge of what truth is. See, that's why you can apply these ideas and they will always work. They're consistent. This is your inheritance and requires no learning at all, because when you disinherited yourself, but when you disinherited yourself, you became a learner by necessity. Okay. That is a really long way of saying you know how to be you, and that your default setting is joy, that your default setting is peace, that you already know how to do these things. Do you know that you already know how to be the light of the world? Did you know that you already know that your happiness and your function are one, and that you keep getting in your own way? Do you know that if you believed that that situations that befall you have no more, that there aren't good and bad situations, that the situations and feelings that come to us, their meaning is what we need to be looking for, and the meaning is learning where we have projected, where our erroneous beliefs are, is where our suffering is, so we project outside of ourselves, and the meaning is, I'm actually trying to extend an illusion. I'm trying to extend the idea that lack is real, that I'm not enough, or that this is not enough, or the situation should be different. That's not true. That's not creative. You're creative. You know when you do this. We know when we step outside of our full, honest, creative selves. We don't feel good. And that's what she's trying to get us to understand. Our happiness and our function are one. We are, in this last step, talking about being apart of God and increasing who we are. The law of the kingdom is that truth is what extends. The law of the kingdom is that these differences that we think is, oh, this is better than that. This person is better than that person. This disease, to have a disease is worse than not having a disease. To be a boy is better than being a girl. To be born in India is better than to be born in Switzerland. To have brown hair or blue hair, to have this experience over that experience is better, is more preferable. It's not true. You're ever only experiencing your own beliefs, because we look at, and only when it talks about in the reality of the kingdom is, here we go. In the law of the kingdom, God Himself created God Himself created you by creating by love. And when we are projecting, we're trying to we're not owning something about ourselves, and we're putting it out into the world and saying, that's not me, that's bad, or that's not me, that's good. It's not accepting who we are as the light of the world, and it creates problems because it's not creative. It's projection. So we're either going to be projecting or we're either going to be expanding. And that's the law of the kingdom. Though outside the kingdom, this is what you project, you believe. That's what the phrase I was looking for. What you project, you believe. And it says here, until we're in another section, until we are I want to say enlightened, but the word isn't coming to me. As long as we're in bodies, we're going to be doing some form of projection. That doesn't mean that we are going to call it true. We're going to be able to recognize it as not true and not act on it. But we as human beings live in this dualistic world full of polarities, and those are projections. The projections are the problem. Believing them to be true is the problem. What we do as human beings is project our beliefs onto the world. Now, those beliefs can align with the truth, but they will still project. And what we do when we project the truth, it's called extending, and that's when our body and our world kind of align with our spirit and who we are. It is marvelous. It is absolutely marvelous. Understanding that differences do not matter. It's kind of a hard thing to wrap your mind around, because a lot of us are pretty wed to differences. And it's a lesson that I've learned here very, very recently, doing some work with a mentor of mine about my own addiction to self-righteous anger. And so this idea of differences do not matter has been very, very, very healing for me. But that's what I'm working on. So the next section is we're halfway through our scheduled time here, and there's a song that Yolanda sings. It's called Freedom, and I wanted to play a little bit of that for you today, because it has some the ideas that we are working with here. It's called Freedom. So if you can listen to a little bit.
Are you in charge of your life? Do you make it your own? Do you follow your heart? Yeah. This moment is your home. Do you see love all around you? And let compassion fill your soul. And feeling all of your sensations. We are free and we are whole. And so our thoughts create our freedom.
Our thoughts create our freedom. It's that idea of projection that we're speaking of today. Our thoughts create our freedom. Either we're going to use the ideas of love or we're going to use ideas of projection. Do you love to suffer?
Are you comfortable with pain? We'll try living in the flow, in the state of well-being.
That's yourself, that's your love.
Don't you worry about tomorrow. You just stay in the now. All is good if you can see it. It all works out somehow. So our thoughts create our freedom.
Our thoughts are creating our freedom. We always project what we believe. And when we know that that our tendency to prefer something over another is actually the problem. Here we go.
Appreciate who you are. We are divine, magnificent expressions of life. The universe loves gratitude. The more grateful you are, the more things you have to be grateful about.
Does your intuition guide you? Or do you lay awake at night? Do you believe in the power? Cause you know it's your birthright. And in your moments of confusion, when you can't find the way, there's an answer deep inside you that puts you back in harmony. And so our thoughts create our freedom.
Our default setting is joy. What we really want to extend is be present with other people. The Course is telling us. The Course is very clear that our function as the light of the world by using forgiveness to bring peace. And your presence, your natural state, is peace. We want to give this away in the world. We want to give ourselves away. And the ways in which we give ourselves away, we can is the way we create like God. So I want to make sure that we got a little bit of those understandings in there. And yet another way, we use a song, we'll use an image. The image that I've been dealing with or using a lot lately is there was this chess set that washed up on the Isle of Lewis in the Hebrides in the late 1870s or early 1870s, 1871 I think. There was a chess pieces and other game pieces for a game called Tables that washed up in 1871 that were carved out of walrus and whale ivory in 1200, and it's this beautiful carving of a king, and this king is holding his sword and he's just staring out like these. It's kind of a big beady-eyed guy, but he's staring out, staring intently forward with holding his hand on his sword, sitting on his throne. And I've been looking at that image a lot as the idea that the Course puts out in this section in chapter 7, the chapter we're looking at today. We're looking at called the gifts of the kingdom. She uses this idea of kingdom a lot in the Course, and this idea of a king, of being that we are the decider and the decision maker for our lives, and we're going to choose how we be, as Yolanda said. You're going to choose how you be. You're going to choose how you are in the world and what you choose to extend, what you choose to be a part of. The reality of the kingdom is the next section. It says, to be in the kingdom is merely to focus your full attention on it. This is part of that vigilance. To be in the kingdom is merely to focus your full attention on it. As long as you believe you can attend to what is not true, you are accepting conflict as your choice. Is it really a choice? It seems to be, but seeming and reality are hardly the same. You who are the kingdom, see, you're getting that idea. You who are the kingdom are all that exists, and reality, you really exist. You who are the kingdom are not concerned with seeming. Reality is yours because you are reality. Take that in. You are reality. This is how having and being are ultimately reconciled, not in the kingdom, but in your mind. Remember, that is the first stage of awakening we did last week? The altar there is the only reality. The altar in the kingdom, the altar of your heart, is the only reality. The altar is perfectly clear in thought because it is a reflection of pure thought. Your right mind sees only brothers because it sees only its own light. See, there we got the idea of a projection. Are you seeing what is really there? Are you putting out in the world what is really there? Healing in the recognition of truth. The Holy Spirit must work through you to teach you who is in you. The Holy Spirit must work through you to teach you who is in you. Love that. This is an intermediary step toward the knowledge that you are in God because you are a part of Him. All abilities should therefore be given over to the Holy Spirit, who understands how to use them properly. Your function, right? Your passion in the world. All abilities, because you have abilities, should therefore be given over to the Holy Spirit, who understands how to use them properly. He uses them only for healing, because He knows you only as whole. By healing, you learn of wholeness, and by learning of wholeness, you learn to remember God. You have forgotten Him, but the Holy Spirit understands that your forgetting must translate into a way of remembering. So He's talking to our human self, this integration, this fleshy spirit that we all seem to be. Healing in the changelessness of mind. This is very key. The body is nothing more than a framework for developing abilities, which is quite apart from what they are used for. Your body and your place in the world, these forms, this three-dimensional world, is a way of developing your abilities. They aren't your abilities, they're a way of developing your abilities. And that is a decision. That is where we become the king. We are choosing how to use our bodies in this world. Healing is the one ability everyone can develop and must develop if he is to be healed. Healing is the Holy Spirit's form of communication in the world, and the only one the Holy Spirit accepts. He recognizes no other because he does not accept the ego's confusion of mind and body. Minds can communicate, but they cannot hurt. The body is in service of the ego. The body in service of the ego, which is the other way we do this, instead of developing our abilities by giving them over to the Holy Spirit so she can use our bodies and our minds in accord with what our passion is and bring greater peace and love in the world. Minds can communicate, but they cannot hurt. The body is in service of the ego, can hurt other bodies, but this cannot occur unless the body has already been confused with the mind. Healing only strengthens. The unhealed healer wants gratitude for his brother, but he is not grateful to them. That is because he thinks he is giving something to them and is not receiving something equally desirable in return. That's the relationship that we're talking about, this relationship. His teaching is limited because he is learning so little. His healing lesson is limited only by his ingratitude, which is a lesson in sickness. So, have you ever known somebody, an unhealed healer? I've been an unhealed healer. I go back in and out of it sometimes. This places you in a position of needing to learn the lesson that seems contradictory. You must learn to change your mind about your mind. And only by this can you learn that it is changeless. Remember that you have a changeless mind. That's the mind we want to extend to the world. That changeless mind, how God is so reliable. It is not changeless because it encompasses everything. Growth, greater, blesser, differences are not what God is about. God's the whole thing. God isn't changeless. God is changeless. We change. God is changeless. And there's a part that God made of us. There is our essential nature is changeless. And we're in bodies to develop abilities. How about that? So develop your abilities. Use your body to do that and change your mind about what your mind is for. Practical thoughts that you can take out into the world and apply them to your job, apply them to your relationships, apply them to your politics, apply them to your garden. Right? Extending love and beauty in who you are, and working at being an authentic person all the time. The world needs you, needs your authenticity, needs your light. Please forgive yourself for the way it's got to be, the way you think that it's got to be. Forgive yourself for reaching for what you want. Forgive yourself for resisting what you do not want. Forgive others for doing that with you. And work at being a presence of love and extending God's relationship with you to the world in loving what is happening by being a part, loving what it is yours to do, loving it, being a part of loving relationships, applying your abilities and developing your abilities with the help of the Holy Spirit to bring greater and greater experiences of peace and joy, truth, beauty, and love to the world. That's what it's all about. It's simple as that. From vigilance to peace. This is the last section here. From vigilance to peace. And it's kind of an important part here because if peace and the extension of love and deciding who we are and what we're going to be doing and our happiness and our function are one, and we're going to be teaching peace in the world, that does require vigilance, but it's and that is the third. Remember that being, she's reprising here some ideas. And remember last week we talked about the third step of awakening is be vigilant only for God and His kingdom. This is how happiness. This is our how we apply our function to the world. Teaching peace, we give our abilities over to the care of the Holy Spirit, so she can teach us, use our bodies and our minds to teach us what we want to know to expand the peace and love in the world. We have to first realize that having is being, that we are love, we are the thing that we are looking for, and that we have everything we need to be a part of this world. And then to say that then we have to. The third step is to be vigilant for God and His kingdom. And she offers this idea, and that's about our practice in the world, being a part of a practice community, and being true to ourselves, having your own practice. You know, what I used to say a lot is, thank you for what you do when nobody's looking. Do you have a practice that you practice when no one's looking? Some do, some don't. You might just want to look at that. The mind that accepts attack cannot love, and this is where she's talking about vigilance. From vigilance to peace, the mind that accepts attack cannot love. That is because it believes it can destroy love, and therefore does not understand what love is. It does not understand what love is. If it does not understand what love is, it cannot perceive itself as loving. The mind that believes in attack cannot perceive of itself as loving. This loses the awareness of being. The awareness of being. Your mind and your heart have this awareness of being, and we lose it when we believe we are unloving, which allows us to attack other people and ourselves. This loses the awareness of being, induces feelings of unreality, and results in utter confusion. We've all been in those states. Your thinking has done this because of its power. And our minds are very powerful. She says this a lot. Your thinking has done this because of its power, but your thinking can also save you from this because its power is not of your making. Your ability to direct your thinking as you choose is a part of its power, but you do not believe you can do this. If you do not believe you can do this, you have denied the power of your thought and thus rendered it powerless by your belief. The idea here is that old Sufi idea of Rumi talks about it. Many other places do too. It's even in Hindu mythology, and the Krishna is always with a flute. It's because the flute or the reed is a very, very good metaphor of us as human beings. God's breath is blowing the Spirit. God may be even playing it. We are co-playing this reed. The breath of God is breathing us. Where the holes are is our unique is the unique instrument. And we with God, us and God, are co-creating this song into the world. God's breath into the reed, into the human form, where both of our hands, with God's help and to develop our abilities, we actually play this beautiful instrument, and create art into the world with all that we do. Beauty, trust, love, joy, and peace. We're doing this together. That's what she means when she says, please know that you have the power to decide how this power moves into the world, but you must know that you did not create this power. Your mind, it says, is dividing its allegiance between two kingdoms. 2 kingdoms. Your mind is dividing its allegiance between 2 kingdoms. And you are totally committed to neither. Your identification with the kingdom, capital K, your identification with the kingdom is totally beyond question, except by you, and when you are thinking insanely. Wow. It's never in question except when we're thinking insanely. What you are is not established by your perception, or by what you think you are, or by what you disassociate. And it is not influenced by it at all. It's not... What you are is not influenced by what you disassociate from. Very nice, right? The ego believes this, what you are is not established by your perception, is not influenced by it at all. Perceived problems in an identification at any level are not problems of fact. They are problems of understanding, since their presence implies a belief that what you are is up to you to decide, right? What you are is up to you to decide. Actually, it's not. It's how you use who you are. It's up to you to decide. And she says that very, very, very clear. The ego believes this totally, being fully committed to it, right? It's not true. You don't get to say, I'm this way, I'm this way, I'm this way. It's actually, it's probably more than that. It's not true. The ego, therefore, is totally committed to untruth, perceiving in total contradiction to the Holy Spirit and to the knowledge of God. And this is, so have you ever tried to implement something or expand yourself into the world, and something goes horribly wrong, and you experience like depression and sadness? It's one of those things we immediately reach for, that resistance state in us. No, I can't be sick now. No, I can't be. Depression is unacceptable. Or we think, oh, these negative thoughts I have, I can't have those. I have to push those away. She's asking us not to do that, to stop that reaching. She says it like this. In this depressing state, the Holy Spirit, we're in this believing the ego can determine who we are, who determine who we are, and we have all this power, we're using it to gather things to us and be powerful and be, culturally frightening maybe. In this depressing state, the Holy Spirit reminds you gently that you are sad because you are not fulfilling your function as a co-creator with God, and are therefore depriving yourself of joy. Remember, your function and your happiness are one. Clap, clap. Your function and your happiness are one. Clap, clap. When you are sad and when you are depressed, it's because you're not co-creating with God. Clap, clap. This is not God's choice for you. It's yours. Your mind could be out of accord with God's, but you would be willing without meaning. Yet God's will is unchangeable, and no conflict of will is possible. This is the Holy Spirit's perfect and consistent teaching. Creation, not separation, is your will because it is God's. Creation, not separation, is your will because it is God's, and nothing that opposes this has any meaning at all. Being a perfect accomplishment, see, that's you, that's me. I am a perfect accomplishment. 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 being a perfect accomplishment, the sonship, that's you and me, can only accomplish perfectly, extending the joy in which it was created, and identifying itself with both its creator and its creations, knowing that they are one. So, what we create through love, as God creates, is actually one with us. Our loving relationships, the beauty around us. Now, beauty itself, not the forms in which it takes, but beauty. We are creating more beauty. We have the ability to choose to use the power that God invested us as His children to expand love and truth and knowledge and beauty. It's our presence that does that. It's our very presence that does that. Have you given yourself permission to be happy? Have you given yourself permission to do what you love to do? Now, we're not talking here about trying to have the culture monetize what you love. But remember, in the second phase of awakening, it says whatever you are here to do, and Holy Spirit is, when we turn over our abilities, uses our abilities through our bodies and our minds to develop them, and maybe we have a job. That job that is monetized. Maybe we have and we do something over here that we love. Your primary function is to be the light of the world. Forgive what you resist and forgive what you reach for. Be the presence of love in the world by creating loving relationships. Through loving relationships, we can change the world. One relationship at a time. My name is Glen Morton Ganaway. I am an ordained interfaith minister. I have a counseling practice. I blog at www.glenganaway.com. Got podcasts there and explanations of the course. You can get on my mailing list at gmganaway@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. And I'm an integral mentor. So I have a unique interfaith, integral approach to these spiritual principles. So I'd like to encourage you to use the lessons that we've discussed here today in your life, because you will prove their efficacy by using them. Choose to be the loving presence in the world, no matter what you are. Give your abilities over to the Holy Spirit so she can develop them, and know that your passion in the world for what you want to do is your happiness. It doesn't have to be monetized, but it is yours to do, and you must do it if you're going to be happy. I look forward to hearing about your happiness and about how you're using the light of the world to create the more beautiful world that we know is possible. I'll see you next week.